India has already recorded more than 300,000 daily cases for 10 straight days.
I wanted to ask you today, Dr. Fauci, what can we learn from India's outbreak that we should apply to our response here in the U.S.?
You know, the reason that India is in such dire straits now is that they had an original surge and made the incorrect assumption that they were finished with it. And what happened, they opened up prematurely.
This is a paper that has not undergone peer review, and it's on a limited number of patients, suggesting that there is some reduced neutralization, and as such, we are classifying this as a variant of concern at the global level.
You're right to raise the Indian variant, or B1617.2 as we must call it. It is a variant of concern. We are anxious about it. It has been spreading.
Scores of bodies are also being found washed ashore in the river Ganges. The bodies have been put in the river by family members after some towns ran out of wood to keep the cremations going.
India is the world's biggest producer of COVID-19 vaccines, but shortages of the shots in some states have hindered its vaccination drive.
That the Delta variant is well on its way to becoming the dominant variant globally because of its significantly increased transmissibility.
The country's coronavirus infections have soared in what is being described as a tsunami by the Delhi High Court. India has hit a rate of 1 COVID-19 death in just under every 4 minutes in Delhi, as the capital's underfunded health system buckles. The government has deployed military planes and trains to get oxygen to Delhi from the far corners of the country.
The newly reported deaths had occurred last month, and the district health officials said they were investigating the lapse, blaming the oversight on private hospitals.
Globally, we're now seeing a plateau in the number of COVID-19 cases and deaths, with declines in most regions, including the Americas and Europe.
And within that, the Delta variant is now becoming more prominent or more dominant in certain parts of Jakarta and other parts of Java.
India has the second highest tally of COVID-19 infections in the world after the United States. But health experts say they believe both coronavirus cases and deaths are being significantly undercounted across the country.
Once health systems begin to fail, they tend to fail quite catastrophically and rather quickly.
We are tired of injustice. We are tired of government's lies.
Greetings, citizens of the Earth. This is a message from Anonymous. This transmission is to inform you about the ongoing struggle against oppression in Colombia, and our operations in the region to help the activists on the ground. For far too long the people of Colombia have been overworked and overtaxed, and the money that has been taken from their paychecks has not helped to create a social safety net or provide for basic public services. Instead, it was used to create a militaristic police state to keep the people in line. This was still not enough for the regime of President Ivan Duque, whose government recently proposed a massive tax hike that would increase taxes on many of the workers in the country. The proposed measure sparked protests across the country, and the police were quickly unleashed on the large crowds that had gathered to oppose the action. The Ministry of Defense has deployed 47,500 uniformed personnel countrywide. In Cali alone, 700 soldiers, 500 riot police officers, 1,800 other police, and 2 helicopters were patrolling the protests, according to Geo News. The Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights voiced profound shock on Tuesday at a clash in Cali where police reportedly opened fire on demonstrators, killing and injuring several people. At least 19 protesters have been reported dead after the confrontation with police. Human rights advocates from around the world have been speaking out in support of the protests and condemning the actions of the Colombian government. Anonymous has also begun several operations in support of the Colombian people. Anonymous affiliates on the ground in Colombia were the first to report that the government cut off the internet to large sections of the city in Cali during the protests. The Twitter page for Anonymous Op Colombia has been publishing a steady flow of video evidence showing blatant police brutality and murder against peaceful protesters. In addition to raising awareness about what is taking place in the streets, anonymous affiliates in Colombia have also claimed that they successfully hacked the military. An anonymous source in the region claimed, the armed forces of Colombia, they have been infiltrated. Collective panic will be the strategy of fear to blame others for the same massacres perpetrated by the police and the Army of Colombia. The Army Wikipedia pages were also altered to describe the soldiers as murderers. Duca's government has denied that the police or security forces are responsible for the deaths that took place during the demonstrations. Instead, Duca blamed the murders on armed protesters who he claimed had infiltrated the protests to cause chaos. Likewise, Defense Minister Diego Molano said the violence was systematic, premeditated and financed by criminal organizations. In response to the protests, the government has withdrew the proposed tax increase that caused the unrest. However, roughly half of the population still lives in poverty, and the country has seen a massive economic decline in recent years, so it is very possible that this could be a spark point in a larger movement for freedom and equality in Colombia. We are anonymous. We are Legion. Expect us.
The truth is that senior ministers, senior officials, senior advisors like me fell disastrously short of the standards that the public has a right to expect of its government in a crisis like this. When the public needed us most, the government failed. And I'd like to say to all the families of those who died unnecessarily, how sorry I am for the mistakes that were made and for my own mistakes at that.
Why can't you be fired? Shame on you, resign.
The view of various officials inside Number 10 was, if we have the Prime Minister chairing COBRA meetings and he just tells everyone it's swine flu, don't worry about it, I'm going to get Kris to inject me live on TV with coronavirus so everyone realises it's nothing to be frightened of, that would not help actually serious planning.
Today.
I said repeatedly from February, March, if we don't fire the Secretary of State and if we don't get the testing into someone else's hands, we are going to kill people and it is going to be a catastrophe. Now, in my opinion, he should have been fired for that thing alone. And that itself meant that the whole of April was hugely disrupted by different parts of Whitehall fundamentally trying to operate in different ways, completely because Hancock wanted to be able to go on TV and say, look at me, my 100k target. It was criminal, disgraceful behaviour that caused serious harm. I think that the Secretary of State for Health should have been fired for at least 15, 20 things, including lying to everybody in multiple occasions, in meeting after meeting, in the cabinet room and publicly.
Follow that social distancing.
I think that the Secretary of State for Health is certainly one of those people. I said repeatedly to the Prime Minister that he should be fired. So did the Cabinet Secretary, so did many other senior people. It's completely crackers that someone like me should have been in there, just the same as it's crackers that Boris Johnson was in there, and that the choice of the last election was Jeremy Corbyn. It's also the case that there are wonderful people inside the civil service. There are brilliant officials all over the place, but the system tends to weed them out from senior management jobs. And the problem in this crisis was very much lions led by donkeys over and over again. She says, I've just been talking to the official, Mark Sweeney, who is in charge of coordinating with the Department for Health. He said, quote, I've been told for years that there is a whole plan for this. There is no plan. We're in huge trouble. I've come through here to the, tell him what Morris said, I've come through here to the Prime Minister's office to tell you all, quote, I think we are absolutely I think this country's heading for a disaster. I think we're going to kill thousands of people. As soon as I've been told this, I've come through to see you. It seems from the conversation you're having that that's correct. And I said, I think you're right. I think it is a disaster. I'm going to speak to the Prime Minister about it tomorrow. We're trying to sketch out who what Plan B is.
Prime Minister, did tens of thousands of people die who need not have died because of your action or inaction?
No, I don't think so, but of course this has been an incredibly difficult series of decisions, none of which we've taken lightly, and you've got to recognise, and I hope people do understand this, that when you go into a lockdown, it's a very, very painful, a traumatic thing for people, for people's mental health, for their lives, and their livelihoods, and of course you've got to set that against the horrors of the pandemic and of COVID. And at every stage, we've been governed by a determination to protect life, to save life, to ensure that our NHS is not overwhelmed, and we've followed to the best we can the data and the guidance that we've had.
These allegations that were put yesterday and repeated by the Right Honourable Gentleman are serious allegations, and I welcome the opportunity to come to the House to put formally on the record that these unsubstantiated allegations around honesty are not true, and that I've been straight with people in public and in private throughout. Every day since I began working on the response to this pandemic last January, I've got up each morning and asked, what must I do to protect life? That is the job of a health secretary in a pandemic. We've taken an approach of openness, transparency, and explanation of both what we know and of what we don't know. I was looking at it this morning. Since last January, I've attended this House, Mr. Speaker, over 60 times. With the Prime Minister, we have together hosted 84 press conferences. I've answered 2,667 contributions to this House and answered questions from colleagues, the media and the public. And we'll keep on with this spirit of openness and transparency throughout. As well as coming to the House today, I'll be answering questions and hosting another press conference later.
Is there anything you want to add as a right of reply to the oral evidence that you heard from Dominic Cummings?
Well, it is telling that no evidence has been provided yet, but there's a reason for that, I think, which is that, throughout this, I have got out of bed every morning with the view and the attitude that my job is to do everything I could to protect lives and to get this country out of the pandemic. And I've approached that with a mission-driven determination to make it happen. And I've tried to do that with an approach of honesty and integrity and critically answering questions both in public and in private to the best of my ability. Now, sometimes you have to say you don't know, because we're operating in a world where there's huge judgments being made with very imperfect information, often at great pace. But from the approach I've taken, not least in public and to Parliament and select committees like this one,
and in private to the Prime Minister and everybody else, has been to be direct sometimes, yes, and I can be quite forceful when I'm trying to get something through if it needs to happen. But that's what you have to do, and crucially, you have to bring the team with you. You know, there are a lot of people operating, doing the biggest job that they'd ever done in their lives, and you have to build confidence that people can go ahead and do what needs to be done, and then they're going to be supported in the judgments that they take. So we'll go through, no doubt, lots of difficult judgments that were made, and it's very important that we learn the lessons of which of those judgments could have been improved. And indeed, like on care homes, we did manage to improve the system over time. But the attitude and the approach was always to be direct and as straightforward and honest as possible. So in a way, I welcome this opportunity to tell you the truth of what happened, given the discussion that there's been over the past couple of weeks.
We are putting the very health workers that you're talking about at greater risk.
Follow that social distancing.
We will monitor the position every day, and if after 2 weeks we have concluded that the risk has diminished, then we reserve the possibility of proceeding to step 4 and a full opening sooner.
Is not the greater irony, the strange epiphany in many who have gone from regarding the Prime Minister's former advisor as a latter-day King Herod, whose words and deeds could not be trusted, into a prophet who fresh from the wilderness brings with him supposed truths written on tablets of stone. Mr. Speaker, irony of ironies, all is irony.
But now is the time to ease off the accelerator, because by being cautious now, we have the chance in the next 4 weeks to save many thousands of lives by vaccinating millions more people.
This simply is a mess.
And given that discussion, why do you think it was that Dominic Cummings chose to be quite so withering? Did you have a bad personal engagement over the times? Was it a sincere difference of policy view, whether policies or, as it were, sort of operational decisions? What's the origin of this dispute?
I have no idea. I mean, I worked directly with the Prime Minister from the start of this, and of course I worked with his aides and his team as well, and I have no idea.
British Health Minister Matt Hancock quit on Saturday after he was caught breaking COVID-19 rules by kissing and embracing an aide in his office, enraging colleagues and the public who have been living under lockdown.
What do we know about the Secretary of State? Well, we know he's exceptionally hard-working, that every day he woke up to try and save lives.
We met at the student radio station, Oxygen FM. I read the news and Matt read the sport. I've always joked with him that he did the sport because he wasn't good enough to do the news.
Prime Minister Johnson's office said on Saturday former Finance Minister Sajid Javid will replace Hancock as the country's health minister.
This exposes another question that's not really been tackled in British politics, which is what kind of a conflict of interest, a personal relationship, brings to a role like this.
But I do not believe that anybody in Number 10 has done anything to undermine our messaging.
I understand the enormous sacrifices that everybody in this country has made, that you have made, and those of us who make these rules have got to stick by them, and that's why I've got to resign.
This is a message from Anonymous for Elon Musk.
We think there is other intelligent life outside the Earth.
It seems probable, but I think this is one of the great questions in physics and philosophy, is where are the aliens? Maybe they're among us, I don't know. Some people think I'm an alien. Not true. Not true.
But maybe we are aliens.
Of course I'd say
maybe
that.
We are aliens.
For the past several years you have enjoyed one of the most favorable reputations of anyone in the billionaire class, because you have tapped into the desire that many of us have to live in a world with electric cars and space exploration. But recently your carefully created public image is being exposed, and people are beginning to see you as nothing more than another narcissistic rich dude who is desperate for attention. It appears that your quest to save the world is more rooted in a superiority and savior complex than it is in actual concern for humanity. This has been obvious to your employees for a long time, who have faced intolerable conditions under your command for years. It is also obvious to the young children working in your overseas lithium mines, which are destroying the local environment as well. You have been open about your willingness to stage coups in order to install dictators in places where your toxic products are being mined. You have even prematurely crowned yourself Emperor of Mars, a place where you will be sending people to die. Your fanboys overlook these issues because they are focused on the potential good that your projects can bring to the world, but you are not the only show in town, and your competition is growing more intense with each passing day. There are plenty of other companies working on space exploration and electric vehicles. You are just the only CEO who has gained a cult following through shitposting and trolling the world on social media. In fact, many people are now learning that the vast majority of Tesla's income doesn't actually come from selling cars, it comes from government subsidies, selling carbon tax credits for your innovation with clean energy. This technically isn't your innovation though, because you aren't actually the founder of Tesla, you simply purchased the company from two people much more intelligent than you are, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. Tesla has also made more money holding Bitcoin for a few months than they did in years of selling cars. It is also more than likely that this Bitcoin was purchased with money from these government subsidies. It is now widely believed that you have been forced to denounce your company's involvement with Bitcoin in order to keep that green government money flowing into Tesla's coffers. The energy use argument about proof-of-work mining is a very nuanced conversation that requires a fairly complex understanding of how power grids work, and how excess energy is wasted by power companies, and sought out by crypto miners. This is a conversation that you have been having for over a year and were intimately aware of, but as soon as your main source of income was threatened you pretended to be clueless in an attempt to play both sides of the fence. Then, your move to create a Bitcoin miner council was rightly seen as an attempt to centralize the industry and take it under your control. Reading from the comments on your Twitter posts, it seems that the games you have played with the crypto markets have destroyed lives. Millions of retail investors were really counting on their crypto gains to improve their lives. This is something that you will never understand because you were born into the stolen wealth of a South African apartheid emerald mine and have no clue what struggle is like for most of the working people in the world. Of course, they took the risk upon themselves when they invested, and everyone knows to be prepared for volatility in crypto, but your tweets this week show a clear disregard for the average working person. As hard-working people have their dreams liquidated over your public temper tantrums, you continue to mock them with memes from one of your million-dollar mansions. You may think you are the smartest person in the room, but now you have met your match.
Protests following the jailing of former President Jacob Zuma have been centred on his home province, KwaZulu-Natal, and have evolved into a general outpouring of anger. Shopping malls have burned, dozens of people killed, and soldiers sent onto the streets. The Rand, one of the best performing emerging market currencies during the pandemic, hit a 3-month low on Tuesday and continued to hover there on Wednesday. Local and hard currency bonds have suffered, and shares in banks and real estate firms also tanked.
Absolute devastation. The black plumes of smoke that you're going to see coming out of the air.
This is a serious message from Anonymous, regarding the things that will happen for the next 9 years. Unconsciously, all this time we have followed government bullshit rules that were created to destroy freedom and human rights. Many people are pretending to be God in the world with the ambition to get a position and have a source of profit, therefore they sacrifice everyone to promote the interests of a small group of people who want to rule the world. We are currently facing the realization of the UN Conference about the Environment and Development made in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, namely Agenda 21. This has been agreed and signed by President George Bush and leaders of 177 other countries in the world. At that time, this was seen as a very reasonable planning paper, a statement of non-binding intentions aimed at handling sustainability on a planet that was increasingly densely dense. However, in 22 years since that day, this big plan turned hands to extremist groups such as John Birch Society. Agenda 21 has been changed in most of the American public thoughts into a secret plot to impose totalitarian world government, evil efforts to destroy freedom in the name of the environmental project, and not just extremists who drive this conspiracy. In January 2012, the Republican National Committee approved the propaganda, denouncing Agenda 21 in a resolution as a damaging and dangerous scheme, imposing communist redistribution from wealth. The Agenda 21 demonization began among extremist groups such as John Birch Society, the same group that was effectively removed from the conservative movement after accusing President Dwight D. Eisenhower as a communist agent. The John Birch Society and various other radical groups look at Agenda 21 and almost all other global efforts as part of an evil plan of the global elite to form a socialistic world single government, the New World Order. This applies between 2021 to 2030. Here is the structure of the plans written in the secret file. Between 2021 to 2030 there will be one world government, one world central bank, one world military, and one religion in the world.
Enforcement agencies to double their efforts to stop the violence and to increase deployment on the ground.
This is the end of national sovereignty, the end of the family unity at the same time of a single family home. You will be separated from the people you love. End of ownership of personal items, the end of private property, the end of privately owned agriculture. Land use is limited to only serve human needs. The end of petroleum fuel, end of irrigation. The world without cash, global cashless society, universal basic income or harmonized salary, implementation of the world's social credit system. All businesses will be owned by the government and the corporation. Microchip implantation that can control the brain for travel, purchase, and control. Trillions of equipment connected with a 5G network. Liability of a lot of vaccination. Prohibition of the use of non-synthetic herbal medicines as well as a ban on naturopathic treatment. The government will raise your children to brainwash early by controlling the school system and university. The population will be collected in the settlement zone or city centers. There are many legal depopulations or growth control to anticipate population density. Agenda 21 will lead to the new darkness of the pain and misery that humanity has never known. This is a comprehensive utopian environment, social engineering, and global political control. The most dangerous threat to the sovereignty of every nation that can lead to destruction in the real sense, forcing the population to be destroyed in rural areas, and causing 90% of the population killed. There is nothing we deserve to believe besides God and ourselves. We don't scare you, we warn you of evil conspiracy that is soon realized.